Hey, welcome to the Strong Roots podcast. My name is Kristen Hill, and we are so excited that you're tuning in today. Our prayer is that you would move one step closer to Jesus through this series. So go ahead and check out this next episode. Hey, Strong Roots. I'm here with Alyce, and you've seen us together before, but I'm so excited to interview her today because we are in our Winter Blues season. And she is going to be interviewed as somebody who is married to somebody who is struggling with winter blues. And so I cannot wait to hear your perspective. I know there are a lot of women and a lot of men who listen to this podcast who maybe they don't relate personally, but they do relate. I feel like it's really hard to live in this day and age where you don't have a friend, a family member, or a spouse who goes through winter blues.
So true.
So I'm just going to ask kind of a general question at first, but when did you first realize that Dakota struggled with winter blues?
I think it was when we first met, and I remember him coming home from work, and I would go and visit him at his parents' house, and it was just like, he didn't want to talk. He didn't want to go anywhere. And if you guys know me, I am like, go do everything all the time until very late at night. I can just keep going with endless amounts of energy. And I felt like Dakota was almost in a state of like mental hibernation where he just was, it felt disengaged, like wanting to just literally slumber. Like, I really think a bear is a really good analogy for Dakota, honestly.
Yeah.
So that was probably when I started to notice it. And this was also prior to Dakota or I following Jesus. And so I know that it was a lot tougher for him prior to even meeting me, and also prior to Jesus, of course, struggling through the winter months with that.
Was it hard for you not to take it personally? Because I feel like any friend, any family member, any spouse that is struggling, it's hard for me not to be like, why am I not making you happy? Like, what am I doing? Did you feel that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think I have a tendency to want to nag and then feel personally just super hurt and offended. Right. Like, why aren't you opening up to me? Why can't you talk to me about this? Well, I mean, if you're depressed or you're upset, let's get you counseling. Let's, have a conversation about how to make this better. And I think especially in the beginning of a relationship, I did a lot wrong. I probably pushed harder than he would have liked me to. I probably got more angry and annoyed and honestly selfish in this part, like wanting to know why he couldn't just snap out of it and be okay and like go do fun things. Like, why is it so hard? And why did this light switch just happen, near October, November?
Right. So what was your coping mechanisms? I want to hear before Christ, how did you try to fix it? And after you became a Christian, like, what did God enable you to do after that?
Ooh. So obviously before Christ, I kind of touched on that, but definitely was not honoring to him, was not respecting his space, was not willing to really compromise and I think be softer. I think that I have like a really hard edge and I'm like, just want to know the answers, the facts, let's get it figured out. And I think with Jesus, he has given me a deeper compassion for people, most specifically my husband. And I don't know about anybody listening, but I think sometimes it's hardest to have true, deep compassion and love for the people we're closest with, especially when you know they can be better. Yep. And it's like, but you don't have to struggle with this. But I think that God started to make me realize that this is a part of his struggle. And I need to be a woman and a wife who is willing to be supportive, encouraging, pray with him, pray for him, and also be willing to sit back and let him have his space. Let him have his decompressed quiet time. Because I know in the winter, like he and I were talking about this last night as I was just preparing for this podcast, and he had said that there's just this feeling when he gets up every day and it's just like blah.
Yeah.
And he can't really describe it, and it's gotten better throughout the years because he has chosen to follow Jesus too. But I think that it's still something that he struggles with, even being a follower of Jesus.
Absolutely. So I know a lot of you are thinking, well, how do you pray? Like, how would you advise someone on how to pray for their spouse or a friend or a family member?
Yeah. I think that, honestly, at the beginning, I did a lot of praying that God would fix it and change him and make him better. But it was selfish. Like, my prayers were super selfish because, yes, did I want him to not feel this way and to be able to have joy and to be able to be happy in the winter? Sure. But I think it was also coming from a selfish motivation of like, but if you're better, then we can do all of these projects and things that I want to do.
Right.
And I think I needed to shift my mentality from you need to get fixed to God fix my heart and give me the wisdom and words that I need when he asks for them. And I think that there's this tug in my heart of like, I still really want to fix it. I really want to be able to do something. But I think this is Dakota's battle. This is his thing with Jesus that he is continuing and constantly working on. And I'm there to be a supporting, uplifting, honestly, partner and friend and wife. And so I think in prayer, I think I do, honestly, a lot more praying for myself. And I know that sounds like opposite. Like, wouldn't that be more selfish? But I think in this season, I have to pray that God would transform my heart so that I can truly be pure in my conversations with him and in my encouragement for him.
Absolutely. Have you found, I feel like when people are really sad and really depressed, I feel like I kind of want to go down into that pit with them. And I've told myself that's the loving thing to do. Like, I'll just go there with them, and it's like someone's drowning, and instead of throwing a life preserver, I'm like, life jacket, I'm going in the waves with you, right? Yes. I feel like that's what I can do sometimes. Like, how do you stop yourself from doing that?
I honestly think for me, I will just go it alone. I'm kind of the type of person who's like, if you're not with me, fine, goodbye. Have fun. Go do your own thing. I'm just going to go and do my thing. And if you want to come, you can. But if you don't, see ya.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a temptation for me to not necessarily go down in that specific pit, but to just straight up leave him there. Like,
drowning.
Okay, so if we're going to use the drowning analogy, like, Dakota's drowning, I'm on the boat, I do have a life preserver, but I'm like, this is going to be a lot of work. I'm just going to drive my little speedboat away. Like, I hope you like get to shore somehow. And I just can't deal. So I think mine is more avoidance of the situation. If I feel like I've expressed everything I could, tried everything I could, but I think that there's this fine line, because you don't want to sit with them and mope with them and then like let Satan drag you down into this pit. But at the same time, like, I do feel that God has called me to have that balance, to sit with him, to be with him, to compromise. And when we were talking yesterday, he was saying, one of the things that he appreciates is that I will kindly, in my good moments, when Holy Spirit is like, okay, he's with me, I will encourage him. I'll say, babe, like, there's this really cool, fun thing happening next Saturday. We always plan in advance so that he has, time to process and prepare. Do you want to come? Do you want to go do this with me? And honestly, like, that day sometimes comes and he wakes up and he's like, I don't really want to. I don't know. Yeah. And what he's asked me to do is to encourage and to really help him remember that he's going to have a great time. It's going to be really fun. And then we go and it's awesome. Yeah. And he's like, I'm so glad that I got to be a part of that. But again, there's that fine line between you must go, you have to do this. And honestly, if he tells me that morning, like, I can't do it, I can't, I do not want to, like, I don't know, then I have to have the humility and the readiness to say, okay, like, I see you, I understand you, like, no worries at all, like, we can reschedule. And I think having that flexibility instead of being super coarse is helpful to him to not feel like he's being manipulated or overpowered by me. So
Okay, so I hear you saying pray for the person.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them great questions, because what you just said, like you asked Dakota, what would you like me to do in this situation?
Right.
Because a lot of times they do want to get out. They do want to not be hibernating, slumbering, like you said, like a bear. Like they want you to push them, but there is a limit.
Yep.
And so asking them what their limit is, but also you said a lot of it has to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we can only really, truly control ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
So if you were to give the people listening advice on what are some godly statements that you tell yourself or truths that you say to get you in the right mindset and let the Holy Spirit lead you in those moments?
I think that when I'm feeling discouraged or feeling like I don't have the right words, reminding myself that like Dakota is my assignment from God. Like
good.
He is the man that God has put in my life for a specific reason and a specific purpose and a specific time. And when I stand before God one day, like Dakota's not going to be next to me.
Right.
God's going to look at me and say, what did you do with the situations that I placed in front of you, and how did you handle them with me?
Right.
And so I think I try to remind myself that not only do I have the Holy Spirit, but Dakota has the Holy Spirit. Like God is working in and through him.
Yeah.
And I need to trust that. Like I need to trust that God's timing and God's plan is more perfect than my desire to control or manipulate the situation. And something that Dakota said that I want to make sure that I share too is, you know, he's been saying as he's been following Jesus, just because the weather is not what he wants it to be, doesn't mean he can't be the person that God's calling him to be. And I think it goes the same for me. Just because Dakota's not acting the way that I want him to be, doesn't mean that I cannot be the person that God is calling me to be in this situation. And so I don't know if there's anything else like specific that I say, but I think that being ready and willing to talk, you know, with him when he's ready. I mean, I've told you and other people too, like Dakota, and he would love me to share this too, but just sometimes he doesn't want to talk. Sometimes it's okay, and I have to be okay with that. But sometimes it's like 11:30 at night and we're having a full-blown conversation. And it's like, okay, I'm ready in this moment to give you my time and to pray with you, to talk with you. And I always, honestly, I worship God in those moments in my mind and in my heart. Even if I don't want to stay up and talk about, you know, feelings at that moment, I worship God and thank him for the opportunities that he's given me to be able to have these conversations.
Absolutely.
So I think praying during those moments, reminding myself that God is in control of the situation at all times, and that Dakota has the Holy Spirit in him. So
I feel like in times of my marriage where John has been really down, whether it's seasonally, whether it's circumstances, I found it important to encourage him. And that my words have power in his life. And a lot of times I feel like those are the moments whether it's my flesh, whether it's my sinful nature, whether it's the enemy, like those are when I want to kick him down harder. I don't know why. That sounds horrible. Just confession. But it's like, why, like you're saying, like, why are you being so negative? Or what's your problem? Like, this isn't that bad? Or, but I have found, if we're going to talk about spiritual discipline, like it is really important for me to choose to take that time when I don't want to encourage and uplift.
Yes.
How do you practically do that? And what are some like really straightforward things that you have found helpful to encourage your husband?
I think speaking God's truth and life over him. Like reminding him that he is an amazing provider, that he is such a hard worker. I see how much he is doing and how much energy he's putting into things, because I know that for him, like, man, spending 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. working in a super physically demanding job for someone who does deal with this is so hard. And I work a lot, you work a lot, but like, I feel like I don't even understand how much Dakota is like putting in energy wise. And so I think like practically encouraging him when I see him really pushing himself to that limit of like, you know, I might not want to do this, but I'm choosing to do this. And I'll call him out and be like, babe, thank you so much
Yeah.
for doing that thing. Thank you so much for folding that laundry.
Yeah.
You know, when I was at the 6 p.m. service, like, that means so much to me.
Yeah.
And reminding him that, like, I see him.
Yes.
I think that words of encouragement are huge.
I notice you matter. I
Yep.
feel like those are two things that it doesn't matter what type you are, personality type you are, like noticing someone and
Yep.
letting them know they matter are so key.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Well put, girl. I'm going to end with that. This was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your marriage and your experiences with us. And thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes.
I cannot wait to catch you next time. Bye. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on our other social media platforms. We don't want you to miss out on any future content. Thank you so much again, guys. I hope you have a great day. And I want you to know I am personally praying that your roots stay strong.